Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Week in Review. It's great to have you all with us this week. Welcome. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to have a slight change of program this week due to some scheduling issues. We're going to be switching over to our Pick of the Month call at about the 30-minute mark in this week's call. So if you're going to stick around for that, please do. But in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and get started with the news of the week? And as always, what a week it has been. You'll notice that our editor-in-chief, Christian, is not with us this week. He is on holiday, and we'll just be picking up the slack in his stead. I'd like to start out with the news early this week. Regarding the Optimism airdrop, that seemed to be one of the main narratives that we kept an eye on this week. As you guys probably know, and Tim, I'm going to turn this one over to you, so heads up, considering you did a newsletter on this week. There has been some controversy surrounding the airdrop that began more or less immediately after the first of many planned airdrops. So, Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's start off this week talking about Optimism. What's going on, and what have we been watching?
Yeah, no problem. So, if you've been following us for a while, we've put out a few newsletters and a lot of pieces in preparation leading up to this point. Optimism finally dropped its governance token, the first layer to do this through an airdrop, although there are many others speculated, like Arbitrum, ZK Sync, Starknet, possibly some others as well. The contract went live, I believe it was Tuesday afternoon if you're on European time. And start off trading around $4.50, quickly dropped down, as is expected. A lot of people chose to cash out airdrops, and if you didn't get one, airdrops ranged in size from maybe like 500 for sort of the lower end, all the way up to people who are getting the real power users of Optimism. Those who qualified for a lot of the different criteria, they could sort of boost the amount of tokens that they were allocated by doing so. And there was a lot of different things you could do, from contributing to Gitcoin grants, obviously bridging to the network early, interacting with apps on a regular basis, and all that kind of stuff. This was the first of many, at least 2, maybe 3 planned airdrops from Optimism. So the first one dropped, I think, about 5% of the tokens that they are planning to drop to the community. So there'll be future ones coming down the line. They've already confirmed that. And that's kind of where a little bit of the controversy comes in here. So, as I mentioned, the token price dropped on launch, not something that's wholly unexpected, especially in the current market conditions. But there was a lot of discussion on the Optimism governance forums. One user, especially called OX John, posted a thread suggesting the idea that anyone who sold their Optimism tokens from the airdrop would be made ineligible for subsequent ones, even if they would have met the certain criteria, whatever they might be in the future. Opinions were kind of mixed. Surprisingly for me, there were a lot of people who supported this. But of course, there were also others who criticized the suggestion, most notably crypto personality Kobe from the Up Only podcast. He sort of did a parody post on the Optimism governance forums in response. It got removed, then it got reinstated again. I'm not sure what's going on there, but there was a lot of controversy around that because people said they were sort of suppressing his opinion, suppressing his voice. It's kind of an ongoing issue as well. I think that covers the main points of the airdrop there. So I guess I'll throw it back to Jacob and sort of open it up to everyone else to share our thoughts on this.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Interesting turn of events. I'm not quite sure what my take on this is yet, so as not to steal the stage, I'll open it up to the group. What do you guys make of this suggestion? I guess this is a question, a broader philosophical question about fairness, or something like it. Navesh, what do you think?
Yeah, I like we were just having this chat earlier within the research department, and I was kind of thinking because the proposal that went through it is for a future optimism airdrops, but some teams have expressed or some people have expressed doubts that it might also extend to other protocols. So, other protocols will refer the history for Optimism airdrop, and let's say it's just Arbitrum or Starknet, and they see the people who have dumped, and they wouldn't give airdrop tokens to those people who have dumped. So it can have large implications, and I was not kind of in favor of it. But then, others like Sergey and Anton suggested, it makes sense to sell the tokens, right? Like to punish the sellers for any protocol manager or a team, and to only reward participants who are doing it for the governance, because not only it incentivizes people to use the protocol more sincerely, but it makes the governance process more efficient and seamless. And right now, that's a big issue for an industry which is going forward with decentralization, because we only have pseudo decentralized products right now. And most of the times, we just look up to a centralized entity, may it be a person or an organization, to do the right thing. And many of the governance proposals, like Synthetics tried it, and right now, I think other protocols, I can't really remember, but like this sort of decentralized governance, Sushi tried it, and it kind of stalls the development. And without nobody has a clue what's happening, whales are trying to push some proposals in their favor, and maybe there is no quorum met because of low voter turnout. So all this stuff wouldn't happen if we have sincere people who are looking to contribute towards the development of the maybe a layer 2 or a different application. So yeah, there are contrasting views, but I think it will come up in subsequent airdrops, and maybe we will see some protocols or some applications who will say that we are not going to give it to people who sell it right away.
Thanks, Navesh. Yeah, Tom.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I get Nivesh's point. I tend to be more on the side of like this is not very fair. Like I am not very in favor of the proposal. But I get Nivesh's point about like governments and like trying to have the best governance policy possible. But I feel in Optimism's like case that you would want to be transparent about that before the airdrop happens, because this is retroactive. It's like, oh, by the way, we managed to find all the people who wanted to like get rid of like their Optimism tokens, so we're gonna punish them, instead of making it clear from the beginning that selling your initial airdrop would like make you ineligible for like future airdrops. I think this would like, if you're gonna make it like a matter of like governance and policy, like it needs to be done before the airdrop. But yeah, I tend to be against the proposal.
I think some. I was going to say something similar, actually. It seems like to change the condition. It seems like to, in this particular instance, to retroactively say that, oh, those people who sold their tokens in the first round are not going to be eligible for the next round. That feels like changing the conditions of the game in the middle of it. It does not. I think that behavior of the recipients would have been radically different if they had known beforehand that this was going to be the case. Does anyone disagree with that? Or does anybody have any other thoughts on this particular?
Yeah, just wanted to provide some color, if I may.
Yeah. Of course.
Yes. So I received around like 3K of those tokens, and the way I usually do it with airdrops, I try to front run, and I use degen Spartan, this crypto Twitter personality approach. I immediately liquidate airdrops. I never think about like what I mean. The market just gives you free money, right? Why would you be I don't know, kind of putting yourself into a losing position willingly because you know that everybody else will rush to sell it. If you look at the prices, usually it starts with a large pump because the liquidity works this way. So you start from a pretty high price, and then it just slides, and you have to wait for some time until it breaks this previous ETH. So why would you shy away from free money, right? So the point is that if you think about why this proposal occurred on Optimism, is because the RPC server of the network, basically the pipe through which your MetaMask communicates with other networks, right? So your MetaMask basically just is sending messages to nodes. So because like it's kind of like third-party service, you are dependent on that. So when the airdrop happened, that service of Optimism couldn't handle the load. So people couldn't claim, let alone sell their airdrop. So when they could eventually do that, the prices were already down so much, so they became salty over that. And I think the person who, or the group of people who is in favor of the proposal, or I don't know, like initiated the proposal, would be happily selling for like $2, but they couldn't, right? And that's why, like, and they saw other people doing that, like more, should I say, tech savvy people. I mean, it's a technocracy, right? So personally, I agree with what Nivesh said, and I think if they want like long-term alignment, probably just also what Thomas said, you should probably work the strategy in advance and make it like probably like vesting or something, so everybody is forced to obey the rules. In crypto, unless you force, everybody will break the rules, right? So people would definitely be snatching this airdrop and dumping on onto the liquidity. It's not even dumping on others. It's just dumping into the liquidity pool. So overall, while I agree with the fact that incentives should be aligned, the proposal is kind of like reactionary, and I think it's a little bit of hypocrisy right there.
Thanks, Anton. That's that is some nice color to add to this. Mitchell, I saw you unmute yourself. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, if they wanted to reward people for participating in governance, there's nothing preventing them from locking one set of tokens to the recipient account so they're not tradable, and then giving those same people, whoever participates the most, some sort of incentive. Because to me, like, people need to be strategic, thinking about what are they trying to achieve with distributing these tokens. If they're trying to get a large number of people involved as holders, that makes sense. But if they actually care about facilitating governance, then they need to be rewarding behaviors that are in line with participating in governance.
Right.
That's my 2 cents.
Cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I'll just throw my 2 cents in here as well. This seems like kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of what people are in this game for, right? Like, there is the there is the cohort that genuinely wants to participate in governance and be active in protocols and so on. But most people here, let's be honest, are in the crypto game to make money. And I think Anton says it plainly and correctly that, you know, if a network is going to give out free money, what's wrong with taking that? The real issue here is, at least from my perspective, is why didn't you see that coming? If you want to incentivize governance, you should be introducing a mechanism from the start, like something along the lines of what Mitchell described. Of course, the problem with that is that you are, by incentivizing the holding of the tokens as part of the governance, by incentivizing holding governance tokens and participating in the network in the hope that that's going to drive value, it's going to be awfully hard to make the case that something like that is not a security. And I think that dancing around that language is something that is kind of at play here. What do you guys make of that? Lost somebody on that one. Okay.
I'll just add a little extra here. I guess, yeah, I just completely agree. You know, it's entirely predictable, the behavior of people when you give them an airdrop like this. And any protocol or, you know, project that isn't aware of that, you know, this is their own fault, really. I mean, there's, like you say, you could do vesting, you could do kind of what Mitchell was saying, like this idea that Vitalik has posted about soul-bound tokens, like untradeable NFTs, basically, that would give governance rights or something along those lines. There's clearly other options. And I guess just to sum up what everyone else has been saying, is I feel the same. If Optimism, or, you know, really wanted to create a system where governance was the primary thing, and that's what they were trying to achieve through the airdrop, there's ways they could have achieved that. But instead, it's really, I viewed them more as like a reward for testing something out early, like a monetary reward. And I feel like that's how most people interact with them. You know, it's like, oh, you used you minted an ENS name, for example, early. You get a bunch of tokens. You played around with DYDX early. You know, you helped them, you know, iron out the bugs, for example, before more traffic arrived. Here's your reward. And yeah, they also can be used in governance, you know, to vote on the direction of the protocol. But, you know, it's like you said, most people aren't interested with that. You're giving people responsibility or the choice to just sell for profit. And when you look at it like that, the answer is obvious. People are going to sell. Very few people want that kind of responsibility, even if they're genuinely interested in the governance.
Right. I think that's a problem inherent to the entire decentralization movement, is this notion that a lot of people are content not to be part of governance of anything. Right? Like, it's just to give a really hollow anecdotal example, the guy who just lost the election to my local school board had been running unopposed for something like 9 years, because in all of this town there was one person for nearly a decade who even wanted to take the job. And I think you probably are seeing a lot of that with these early protocol users. I think, Tim, you're right. The incentive that the market sees is the incentive to use these protocols early, so that they can be, so that in the exchange, the transaction here is that the protocol gets more users early on, and the early users get a reward. Any last thoughts on that before we move on? We've got time for another story before switching calls, but do we have any last thoughts? All right, moving on. I'd like to talk a little bit, and Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot here, so heads up. I'm going to talk about a slightly obscure story that I think is worth mentioning, because it has everything to do with this. We haven't talked about the merge in a while. I think it's worth reminding ourselves that it is on the horizon. Something that happened this week was Ropstein Testnet launched its own beacon chain, which is going to, well, like high level, basically we're going to see a test merge, I believe, next week. And this is going to, well, Tom, I'll turn it over to you. What's the significance of this? You caught the story early. What was it about this that resonated and seemed important to you?
Yeah, so as you said, Ropstein, Ropstein is like Ethereum's proof of work testnet. It's the only one. It's the only testnet that functions as proof of work. It's used quite a lot. It's developed by the Geef team, and like it's used quite a lot because it replicates almost exactly how things would like work out on the Ethereum mainnet. Because it has this proof of work like component. So you can even judge like how things are going to work out with gas and fees and everything. So yeah, they launched the Ropstein beacon chain a few days ago, which as you know, like Ethereum mainnet beacon chain's already been launched and it's been a while. But Ropstein was only launched this week. And they will be trying to merge Ropstein's beacon chain with its like proof of work testnet. I think it's on June 8th. So if that goes well, that's a really good sign for however it goes. Actually, like it will be like a really good indicator for how things will probably go for the Ethereum mainnet. Like whenever it tries to like merge with its beacon chain. So the launch in itself of like the beacon chain is like it's good, but like we like it's not necessarily like huge news. Like on another hand, when it does successfully merge, that will be pretty big for the merge itself. And yeah, a few Ethereum developers have talked about how we should be seeing like the merge like happen like either in August or September, October. So if the Ropstein merge goes well, then that's a really, really good sign.
Thanks, Tom. And I thought this was notable for all the reasons that you mentioned. We talk a lot about the merge, and usually our stories about it are something along the lines of this developer has said that it's not actually going to happen by X date. It's actually going to be later, and that will be what we report on. This strikes me as something that's a little more more substantial development that will, once this test merge is executed, provide some kind of indication of how we can expect the actual merge to go. However, I am, as you guys know, an English major and not a strict technologist. So I'm kind of I'm from the outside looking in, almost from a retail investor perspective, and I'm watching this event with great curiosity. I'd like to turn it over to the research team, Navesh, Anton. Am I overstating the importance of this event, or is it as significant as it seems to me?
Yes, very important event, and I think that we also shouldn't be overly optimistic, even if it goes well, mainly because, first of all testnets are different, and Ropstein is not an exception. So it's not the same as merging with the real thing, right? And in the case with the real thing, you have many more variables, and the stakes are way higher, which kind of like always puts me into position when I would say spend another 4 years rather than make a mistake, because I think nobody wants to make even a slightest mistake with the merge. So I would be cautious about timelines. I remember vividly when Vitalik was saying in 2017 or 2016 even about the advent of Casper, and that hasn't ever happened. So treat Vitalik's words with caution. In tech, you do 90% of the work during 10% of the time, and 10% of the work during 90% of the time.
Thanks very much for that perspective, Anton. Navesh, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, definitely, it's an important event, and many people are excited about it. And yeah, there is a lot of risk. Like, as Anton said, even the slightest mistake can cause a lot of volatility. And like, speaking about volatility, I guess whenever the date is announced, we are going to see Ethereum price rises, and I'm not sure. Like, people are going to speculate if it's going to be buy the rumor or sell the news kind of event. But overall, it's going to be positive. So yeah, like, I would suggest looking at how the merge is going through, and like, if like, don't change your strategy depending on how fast it is coming or how late it's going to be, because that can cause you some pain. Otherwise, I just hope that it's a successful one, because then the entire market is going to be in deep trouble. And if it is, then it might be a catalyst for a new bull run, which we have discussed in the past.
There's the there's the comment that I guess that puts the wind in the sails that this could be a catalyst for a bull run. I don't know what. But let's, in the last couple of minutes we have here to discuss the news, I'll turn it over to Nathan to discuss market catalysts and such like that. In the couple of minutes we have, Nathan, I'll first ask you. Bitcoin showed some signs of life early this week. We even did a story on it that did pretty well for us because I think people liked to read about it. But since then, it kind of went back to trading sideways, even suffered some losses. Any insights or perspectives or thoughts this week that we can take home with us?
So I think there's two sides of this coin. So we're probably going to have two halves, I think, of June to look out for. So you're probably going to see Bitcoin coming under some pressure because people are starting to get nervous about the CPI report coming out next Friday, and then after that, the following Wednesday, I believe you've got the Federal Reserve interest rate meeting. So that's probably going to be things that traders are not going to want to hold positions into, or big long positions, and there's a strong likelihood that those meetings could be negative for the crypto market, hence why we've seen a bit of a retracement in the market. But there could be a dip buying opportunity. So if those events are negative, I think people, once we get those out of the way, to look towards the Grayscale ETF final decision, which has a deadline of July the 6th. So once we get past the first half of the month and maybe have a sell-off, it could be time to people to start evaluating, and they'll be speculating on the likelihood of this ETF being approved. It's probably got a very, very low probability, but it's the most hyped ETF decision in a long time. So I think you're probably going to see a month of two halves, and it could be a case of buy the rumor or sell the fact, or vice versa. So I don't know how that's going to play, but that's what I'm imagining is going to be in a lot of traders' minds in the next few weeks.
Thanks, Nathan. That's not all not as gloomy as it could be. I think we'll all take that. We are at sort of at the point where we're going to make the handoff toward the pick of the month call. I'm not really sure